This is Diane Carbo, and I am a caregiver with Caregiver Relief.com. And today I have Betsy Wurzel. She's a dementia care specialist, caregiver coach, and a podcast host of Chatting with Betsy that can be found on the Passionate World Talk Radio Network. And she also has started Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement group on Facebook. And today, Betsy has joined me so that we can discuss caregiving and I'll tell you what, I'm excited you're here. This is a tough subject.
Hi, Diane. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Yes, it is a tough subject, holidays. And I think, Diane, because I've been in a lot of support groups over the years, a lot of caregivers need to learn to readjust. They have to learn to adjust their sails because we want things to stay the same, and they're not going to stay the same. And celebrating the holidays definitely is not going to be the same.
You're right about that. And it's as we both professionally and personally have taken care of family members. So the holidays for me, it was a hard thing for me to accept that I had to change my thinking about the holidays.
Yes. As far as traveling, I never had the experience in taking my husband to the airport on a airplane. If I were to suggest to someone who has a person with dementia, see how your person is, call the airline ahead, explain the situation if you can, and when you're on the jet, tell a stewardess to explain the situation. You might have to accompany your person to the bathroom. They might be making noise. As far as traveling in a car, you really have to consider your loved one because everybody is different. Some people cannot take a long car ride. They'll get antsy, so you'll have to stop. If you are driving with someone such as your husband or maybe a male person who has dementia, you're a female, I would bring a male companion along to help with the bathroom because if someone progresses, they can't just go into the bathroom by themselves. It's just not possible. As my husband progressed, my son had to come with us even to the mall.
I will tell you, as a nurse who has transported patients from one area to another, like from one part of the country to another because of dementia or head injury or whatever, I didn't always have the luxury of having someone, a male companion. And what I've done, and I will share with other caregivers, is if you can, or I look at it as if the gentleman that you're with is uncomfortable going into the ladies' room with you, because we have walked the handicapped accessible things right now. The bathrooms are available to be closed. Use the family bathrooms. But I also, if there's nothing available, this is terrible to say, but I just go into the men's bathrooms in the airports. I've done this before. And it is uncomfortable for men, but I'm surprised at how not uncomfortable men are. I'll yell in, a female is coming into the male bathroom to assist my patient or family member in the bathroom. And it works. Men are pretty okay with that. But now we do have the family bathrooms, which makes things a lot more easier for somebody traveling alone when they are in the bathroom, having to use the bathrooms.
Yes, family bathrooms. I would love to see more places, such as the mall, have them. More than one.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Because it's really necessary. Josh had to go in. Josh is my son. Had to go in with his dad when Matt reached a certain point and could not go in by himself. Didn't know what to do. And it was fine if I went, by myself to the doctor with Matt because they had room and I could, go into the bathroom. And you really have to get over what people think. Let me just tell the audience that don't worry what people think, okay? Because it's none of your business what they think.
You know what?
I used to worry about that when I would order my husband's food and cut it up for him, because in the beginning, my husband did look what you would call normal. So they probably were thinking I was overbearing wife. But I think, Diane, that we need to set our loved ones up for success and not failure, because we wouldn't want to be set up for failure. If you're going over someone's house, now I know it's only going to be a Memorial weekend, this coming weekend already. So if you're going to a place, and now with COVID it's a little different, your loved one may not tolerate wearing a mask. I didn't have to encounter that problem, but that's something to consider. How is your loved one in a crowd of people? If it's too much, move them to a quiet room and try to get out before sundowning if you know your loved one does have sundowning issues. And tell your host, if it's a family member or a friend, we might have to leave by such and such a time to sundowning, and that's a way to educate others. I always would tell people, educate other people about what's going on. And with like July 4th, if there's fireworks, that will set anybody off. Okay, that is post-traumatic, who is in, the service, somebody with dementia. They can't tolerate that. Don't take them to fireworks if they can't tolerate it. You're just setting up for a disaster. Now, there's a lot of caregivers, Diane, that would say, but I want to go to the fireworks. Why should I have to deny myself? Let me tell you something, caregiver. You will eventually get to your fireworks, but you won't have your loved one with you. You will gain your independence, but you're not going to have your loved one. Do you want to enjoy your loved one? I'm a Jersey girl, so I'm very outspoken. I'm very blunt and upfront, and I don't sugarcoat. But you will have to adjust. And if you don't learn to adjust, you're going to create more stress for not only yourself, but your loved one who's going to feel that. And they feel our energy. And we might be used to having a big dinner, like for Thanksgiving or Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate. Scale it down. Do a potluck. Ask people to bring dishes. And if it's too much for your loved one, then you don't have a big crowd. And as far as decorations, a lot of people with dementia are afraid. Don't forget, they see things different. So all those decorations that make noises when you pass by, or they could be scary to them, remove them. Make sure it's safety. There's no point. Thank you. Yeah, and a lot of people, Diane, will not readjust. It just drives me nuts. Just get over yourself. It's not about you, caregiver. It's about your loved one. And as far as wrapping presents, Matt got to a point, Matt was my husband, he couldn't unwrap the presents. It was frustrating to him. So I didn't wrap them. You know what, Diane? I'm going to just, because I am very blunt, our loved ones don't care about a dinner. Our loved ones don't care about a perfect wrapped gift. What they want us. They want our time. They want our love. And that's the best gift you could give anybody.
Exactly. One of the things I think that you're right about is that avoid all or nothing thinking. People feel like if they can't have an activity or do something, they won't do anything at all. And it just leaves that feeling empty. And it's not what the holidays are about. The holidays are about just spending time with one another. It doesn't have to have all the frills and fluff that people want. And
exactly right.
Is that the resulting behaviors when you put somebody in a situation that's uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or unwanted by them is not worth the hassle.
That's right. And if we're anxious because we're rushing around, trying to have a perfect dinner, trying to wrap the presents perfectly, our loved ones feel that. And they don't want us to be stressed. They don't want that. They want our time. And I just want to tell caregivers, don't worry if your loved one doesn't know what a holiday it is. Matt didn't know. It didn't mean that he lost his faith. He didn't know his own birthday, for goodness sake. How would he remember Christmas or the significance of the holiday? But I celebrated all holidays. I celebrated all special occasions. And if your loved one is in a facility, now it's different with COVID, see what their restrictions are. Bring the party to your loved one if you can.
Exactly.
Bring a gift. Bring something special even to the staff. If it's allowed now because of COVID, things might have changed. Yeah. Check with your facility. My dad was in a facility, and my mom used to give like a grocery gift cards to the staff. Bring in some cookies, but just make sure that's allowed now because of the COVID restrictions. But there's ways to enjoy the holiday. We have to remember what's really important, Diane, and that is sharing our love and being compassionate and have empathy. But a lot of caregivers, like I said, I might sound harsh, but I had to learn this myself, or get upset if our loved ones don't remember our own birthday, which is a special occasion, or our anniversary. You can't take it personal. It's not that they want to forget. Their brains are dying. And this is what, especially new caregivers, I call them newbies, have to realize, excuse me, is that it's not a personal issue. And I really highly recommend that new caregivers educate themselves on their loved one's dementia, because there's so many different kinds. Learn about the dementia, become educated, and you will find it a little less stressful because you will know what to expect. Not that it makes it any easier, trust me. When it's in your face, it's a lot different than reading about it, but at least you'll know what to expect.
Exactly. I also wanted to address those that have seniors that they're trying to get them to remain at home as they age, that live alone. And so many family members may forget about them or think that they don't want to bring them out now because of COVID, or because the family member doesn't want to go out around crowds or whatever, because they may be in the very early stages of dementia. And those people face loneliness as well as having the need for others around, even though they appear not to want that at the time. I think caregivers need to be aware of it's important in the early stages. They may not even be diagnosed, but doesn't want to go to a family gathering or something. You need to make extra special time or effort, maybe not on the day of the holiday, but during that holiday time, to spend time with them. I think that's important as well, to get them to feel loved and cared for. Again, it comes back to compassion and kindness.
Yes, definitely. And if you're going to go out to a family dinner, to a restaurant, please do not take your loved one out at the high busyness times, because they will not be able to tolerate the noise. Go off hours. And you know what? You don't always have to celebrate on the day of. You could go anytime, which is what I used to do. I definitely used to do that.
I did that as well. I did things at off times with my dad when he became ill. And he just had pancreatic cancer, and he wasn't a big eater, but he was having problems with blood sugar. But I understand. We wanted to go in, we wanted to enjoy our time and make it feel a little special, but we did it maybe the day before or the day after or at an off time when there was less confusion and less busyness.
Yes, as our last anniversary that we celebrated was in 2019, and I took Matt to a local luncheonette, and he had significantly progressed, and he couldn't take being there the whole time, so I just got it wrapped up, and I fed him at home. And this is what you have to do. Go with the flow.
Be flexible. Absolutely.
Yes.
Be flexible. And I think the other thing you need to do is book activities that maybe to your family member. Maybe it's a religious service. Maybe it's a special meat, like the green bean casserole everybody brings. Something silly like that. But if that's important to somebody, and it makes that feel like a holiday to them, then make an effort and do just that. Even if it's just sitting on a TV tray in front of the TV watching fireworks, the green bean. I think
exactly right.
Feel like you focus on things that are important to them. They may not remember it the next day for some family members because their dementia has advanced. But I will tell you that one of the things that slows the progression of dementia is doing something new and different. Social interaction's important. Those things help people maybe slow dementia. It's a thought that they're saying that the studies show social interactions and stuff can slow it. Make that an important part of your activity for the holidays.
Absolutely, Diane. I feel this way. Live life, whether you have dementia yourself or your loved one, go out, enjoy life, celebrate every occasion, whether they remember or not, and just
Absolutely.
enjoy being with them and take your loved one out as much as you can while they still can go out and enjoy themselves.
Absolutely. And I think if there's anything that we have had to learn through this COVID crisis, this pandemic, is have to seize the moment and enjoy what you can when you can, because you don't know when it's going to be taken away from you.
Absolutely. And even going to looking around at the mall. I live in New Jersey, so New Jersey is very high-paced. Everyone's in a rush. I wouldn't take Matt out when it was very busy because I knew he couldn't tolerate it. But Matt loved to have his caramel frappuccino at Starbucks. He loved that. So we would, get our drinks and we would sit down. Was it difficult? Matt didn't want to be in the wheelchair, so I knew it would take a while to get from one spot to the other, or you don't do as much. And I know I found it really hard, Diane, to readjust. I did. I had to come to the point where I said, I have to adjust. I can't do the things that I used to do. I eventually will. Matt will never get his independence. I will, but Matt won't be here. That's a hard pill to swallow. And this is reality.
It is reality, and change is hard for everybody. And whether it's the patient or your family member or you, the caregiver, change is hard. And accepting it is hard, but it has to be if you're going to have success at taking care of your husband, your family member at home.
Yes, you have to roll with the flow.
Yes.
Be fluid, absolutely. Just like water. And go with it. And I had to teach my son that things change, plans change, holidays change. Even listening to Christmas music or whatever music might get to a point where your loved one doesn't want to hear it. It bothers them. So play something that they like to hear. And you just never know, because what works one day may not work the next. You have to constantly change. Just when you think you have it figured out, things change again.
Exactly. And that's with seniors, even without dementia.
Yes.
A fall, a heart attack, another stroke or whatever, things change. So you have to be ready for those changes during, before, and after a holiday.
Yes. I want people to realize what you used to do will change. That's a fact. And you're either going to accept it, and you might resent accepting it, but you know what? You're only going to make it harder for yourself. Trust me. I've been there. And I have done that. You really need to let go of whatever resentment, hostility that might cause. You know, some people, Diane, they go, I want my decorations up. I don't care if it bothers my loved one. Well, you will care when they start hallucinating and they think that Santa Claus figurine is a monster or a man in the room. Yes. Don't put your loved one in a situation that's going to create a problem. Remove the problem if you can. You will get to put that Santa Claus back, and you really have to be very careful. People with dementia don't see things the way we do. They have visual problems. They have visual perception problems. That's a Santa Claus or maybe an elf in the room. They don't know that.
Yes. Yes. Thing that I'll bring up is they see things different than we may see them, but they pick up on our stress levels as well.
Yes.
And that creates stress for them, and they respond to us when we're trying to respond and control the situation. It doesn't make it easy for anybody.
That's right. And it is hard to remain calm and happy all the time. And I want caregivers to know, Diane, they don't have to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I was not a perfect caregiver. If anyone out there is a perfect caregiver, please introduce yourself to Diane and I, because we would love to interview you.
Nurses who were not perfect.
That's right. I snapped, but make it easier on yourself. Take shortcuts in cooking if you have to. And this is what we really need to realize. If you used to bake a lot of cookies and you can't, you don't do it. And this is a great time, Diane, before the holidays. It's to talk to family members and to try to educate them. Now, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But educate your family. This is what Dad is like now. This is what Mom is. This is what Grandma is. And it's not your responsibility how they accept the information. Your responsibility is just to give the information. What they do with that is up to them, not up to you.
Very good point that you've made there. Exactly.
But I learned this through many years of experience. Mm-hmm. My mother-in-law, I say she took me to Alzheimer's school because I did not know what or heard of Alzheimer's. When my mother-in-law was diagnosed, I worked as a licensed practical nurse, never heard it in nursing school. It was called other names: hardening of the arteries, organic brain syndrome. Yep. I never heard the word Alzheimer's, and I was talking about not knowing anything. And back then, Diane, there wasn't the information highway there is today. There's so much available today for caregivers.
Yes.
And
so
it's
much
really,
more.
Yes, and it's up to you, caregiver, to educate yourself, because no one's going to spoon feed you. You have to want to educate yourself. And that's not putting anybody down. I had to educate myself. And even though what I went through with my mother-in-law, when my husband had early onset, I had to educate myself about that. And there's a saying, when you meet one person with dementia, you meet that one person because everybody is different.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Great minds think alike.
Yes. Yeah, because people think, Alzheimer's, dementia. People don't realize, number one, there's over 200 types of dementia. And there's so many different parts of the brain that are negatively impacted by a type of dementia. So whether it's Alzheimer's or Lewy body dementia or another form of dementia, alcoholic-induced, it doesn't matter. If you've seen one dementia, any kind of dementia, you've only seen one type of dementia because people don't respond so different. I presently am in a situation where I have a client that he's not able to talk. His dementia, he walks, he looks normal, has great facial expressions, but his verbal skills are pretty much gone. And you really have to be in tune, especially during the holidays or around crowds or whatever, to him, because he's not able to express himself in a normal fashion. And that's another thing people have to understand is people respond differently to different situations, and that's important. I'm an seasoned rehab nurse, not old, I'm seasoned, rehab nurse, and I don't like to create dependence. I like to encourage independence for as long as possible. And
yes.
I think the holidays, caregivers, and it absolutely makes people ill, and caregivers don't understand that. And I think the holidays put such an undue amount of stress on somebody's ability to lessen that stress on themselves and on their loved one.
Absolutely. As Diane, the mortality rate for caregivers has gone up. I think it's at 55 or 65%. I forgot which one, but it's way up there from the past.
I can tell you that
caregivers, you need to take care of yourself, and that's a whole nother show of self-care.
Yes, that's a whole nother show. Remember, caregivers, that you're the most important part of the caregiving equation, and without you, it all falls apart. So practice self-care every day because you're. And with that, I'm going to say, Betsy, thank you for joining me.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you, Diane. I loved being on your podcast and talking, and looking forward to many more podcasts. Thank you.
Me too. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.